Welcome to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling. You are about to discover impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you, so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Be sure you visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now tune in, get ready, and enjoy the journey of emerging as a leader of exception in the 21st century.
Welcome, everyone, to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast. I'm your host, Vicki Noethling, coming to you from Roswell, Georgia. The goal of this podcast is to bring topics and guests that will empower you to become the most confident leader and take your business and your life to the next level. Today, I am really excited to talk with Mark Silverman, and let me tell you about Mark. Mark is no stranger to overcoming adversity and mastering his own overwhelm. When he was just 27, he was homeless, 135 pounds, and living in his truck. 10 years later, he was a millionaire. Mark is on a mission to take lessons learned along the way, paired with his business acumen, to help others define and achieve their own successes. Mark came to coaching after a successful career in technology, where he generated over $90 million for fast-growing startups by bringing together executives, technical leaders, and stakeholders to close complex multi-million-dollar deals. He brings his leadership experience together with his coach and facilitation training to his clients, helping them achieve sustainable success in all areas of their business and their lives. He is the author of the best-selling Only 10 at 10s 2.0, Confront Your To-Do List, Transform Your Life, which sold over 75,000 copies to date. Mark helps CEOs, senior leadership, and fast-rising high achievers achieve and leverage their resources and their team for greater impact. And he is the host of the podcast, The Rising Leader. Today, we are going to talk about the rising leader, turning high achievers into effective leaders. So please join me in welcoming my guest, Mark Silverman. Mark, so excited for this discussion today, and kudos to you for making such a transformation.
Thank you. Yeah, it's kind of crazy when I hear my biography written, that way. I usually want people to just say, no, Mark Silverman, he's Zach and Jake's dad, because that's the transformation that counts for me. Everything else is gravy. Becoming the kind of person who could be somebody's dad and a good dad. All of that informs everything that was in that bio.
Yeah. And truly, I'm the same way with my daughters and now my grandchildren, is that what legacy are you leaving behind? So I think that's partly why I also teach the youth, not just adults, because that is the future of our world. And I always tell the kids when I first meet them is, I work with you to become stronger leaders and communicators, because you are going to be running the world for my grandbabies, and I want it to be a good world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So let's start with the two easy questions I ask every guest. Where do you call home? Where do you live right now?
I live outside of Washington, D.C., in a little town called Leesburg, Virginia, just west of Washington.
Yeah, I do know. My brother lives in Iamsville, which is close to Fredericksburg. So what was that moment that began your personal transformation? As you were living in your truck, what was that? Okay, I'm done. This is not going to go on anymore.
It's interesting because the personal transformation didn't happen then. When I came to Washington, D.C., and I was 135 pounds, my brother brought me to AA and NA, and so I got sober and went to college, and wound up becoming quite successful, getting married, having children. But that wasn't where the personal transformation came in. That's where sobriety came in. That's where going from like a not going human concern to an adult.
Yeah.
But the transformation came later when it all fell apart, stone cold sober. In 2009, I was this homeless guy inside, living in $1 million house, driving a Lexus convertible, right? The committee chair for the Boy Scouts. And that's when the cracks in the armor started happening. The insides started coming out, the trauma from childhood, all the things that made me that homeless guy in the first place. So my marriage fell apart and my career started to fall apart. My health was just in the toilet, and I thought I was going to die, and I was suicidal and living in an apartment by myself, with my marriage crumbling, and I didn't know what was going on because I was stone cold sober. And I was the only reason I didn't kill myself then, because again, I got sober. I thought I wanted life, and then all of a sudden, this internal stuff started just wreaking havoc on the external world. It was building myself back from that fall that the transformation came. One of the, you talk often about, where does your confidence come from? Where did you start to be comfortable in your own skin? And it was back then. I was reading a book by Alan Cohen. I was in my apartment. I was depressed and suicidal, and I was reading this book by Alan Cohen called "Relax into Wealth." Very, very Course in Miracles kind of law of attraction kind of book. Wonderful book. But in it, he said, what if you treated yourself the way you treat everybody else in your life? And I looked around my apartment, and I had $7 IKEA chairs. I had all of our old silverware from the basement in my apartment. My ex-wife and kids lived in our $1 million house. I bought my ex-wife a new Toyota Highlander and a baby grand piano, and I was living with old furniture, a desk that I took out of somebody's garbage. And I was like, treat myself like I treat everybody else. Like, I'm not even on the list, let alone at the top of the list. And that was the transformation. That was the moment I said, oh my God, I was a precious little child once. Like, I have worth. And I didn't know up until then. And I was 48 years old. I had no idea that I had worth. I thought my only worth was to work hard, give everybody my money, take care of my parents, take care of my family. And that was the only worth I had. And when I learned that I actually had intrinsic worth, just for being alive, that was the start of building a new Mark Silverman, a completely new human being.
Yeah. As you were saying that, a lot of times I do have guests and we talk about self-care, and often I say, it's not just women that need to do this. Oftentimes women don't do it, but it is men too. And I think what gets skewed sometimes is your understanding of what your purpose is, and your why. Like, why, and I love that you thought to take care of your parents before yourself, but I wonder what went through your mom's mind. Okay, now I'm talking about being a mom, but your mom's mind looking at her son, thinking, what did I do wrong? What did I not pour into him that told him he was this precious gift that on that day he was born, was worth so much to me, filled my heart. And now you don't even think you're worth anything but some crappy furniture.
Well, I did grow up with a mother with narcissistic disorder. So, I say that not to diss my mom. I say that because I meet so many people who have lived through that and don't understand the echo in their lives of having lived through that and what it does, because it's not a very overt like, I wasn't abused in any way, shape, or form. And so that subtle shift in worth is always there with us. And it's usually healing to people to hear that was something that I worked through. I understand the mental illness versus who my mother was now, and able to separate those things. But yes, it was just really kind of sad to have accomplished what I had accomplished up until that point, and to have absolutely no self-worth. It was the digging myself out. It was the I thought I was going to die, and that year I made a decision that I was going to make $1 million, because I thought I was going to die. I wanted to leave $1 million to my ex-wife and my kids. I was going to run the Marine Corps marathon. Couldn't run a mile, but I saw someone on the radio said all humans can run. So I decided I was going to run the Marine Corps marathon to show my kids what you do when things all fall apart. And I was going to give $60,000 to charity to make up for what a piece of crap I was. And that year, made the $1 million, ran the Marine Corps marathon, gave the $60,000 to charity. Well, what I was doing on the whole time I was training, was I was listening to every self-help book known to man, positive psychology. I was listening to spiritual books. I was meditating. I was journaling. And my ex-wife said after that year, she said, I was so worried about you and your depression. She said, but you did everything that I read someone's supposed to do when they're going through that. You were exercising. You had a goal. You were filling yourself with stuff. And that's how I recreated myself, is, mostly, again, for my children. I wanted to be the kind of man my children would be proud of. And that's been my driving force the entire time. And it's what turned me into a coach, because what happened was, once I realized that I was going about life all wrong, I started looking around me at the other people in the 1% that were in my life, and the people who are and I was watching their crumbling marriages, and I was watching their inner demons start to wreak havoc with addictions and all kinds of and mental health issues. And I just decided that I was going to be on a crusade to help anybody I can step out of that prison. I want people to be successful. I love people being rich. I love people being impactful, but I don't want it to cost all those other things in your life.
So it sounds like oftentimes, or could possibly be, that high achievers are always, they have that drive. They're pushing down the trauma. And maybe they're high achievers because they had that trauma, that I'm not going to be like my mom. I'm not going to be like my dad. I'm going to make my family proud of me. And they go, and they forget along the way why.
They can't even see why, because they're fighting demons that they can't even see. The only reason I became successful was I was determined not to be that homeless guy. That determination to not be the homeless guy, that fuel was basically cotton candy. It wasn't sustainable. So it started to fall apart years later, because I didn't build it on something that was solid. Now, the awesome thing about midlife is, those pathologies, those things that drive us to ridiculous heights of success, or the things that turn us into compassionate nurses, or like all these things that turn us into the kind of people that we are. When we get to midlife, all of a sudden, life starts whispering to us and saying, is this who you want to be? Is this the path you want to be on? And if we don't listen, that's when the midlife crisis comes in. That's when the blow up comes in. That's when the health issues come in, the finance issues. But if we do listen, we can start to adjust, and we can start to heal some of those traumas. We can start to choose how we're going to be, because that was the biggest transformation. Is I had no idea I had choice in life. I had no idea my personality was fungible. I didn't know that it was made up in the first place from my childhood and from all the things that happened to me, and that I could actually work to become a different kind of person, that I could grow and change and do things that were never in the realm of possibility for me.
So my next question was really, in your coaching experience, what is that gap that you see between leadership excellence and being able to address all those things that say, what is it that I am meant to do? And is my leadership excellence achieved, but I don't like who I am. So as a coach, what do you do to take them from that, hey, yeah, you're a successful CEO. Hey, yeah, but your life is in the toilet. If you look at it, if you really look at it.
And even if their life isn't in the toilet, their inner life is full of so much turmoil. The first thing is that, I help people realize that when you're in the boardroom, you're not in the boardroom with a bunch of other adults. You're in the boardroom with a bunch of other 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds. We bring our childhood traumas, we bring our conditioning, we bring all that stuff into every interaction. I don't care how expensive your suit is. I don't care how beautiful your dress is. Like, we put on makeup and we shave and we think we're adults. When we walk into a room, we're immediately in junior high school. We're immediately back to, this person reminds us of our father. This person reminds us of the person who molested me. This person reminds me of my baseball coach who thought I was amazing. That's why I gravitate towards them. When we start to see that when people are arguing in a room, that nobody's grounded and centered, everybody is just kind of coming from all this conditioning, all this stuff. The first thing I do with my clients is I teach them to be grounded and centered. If I can get them to be grounded and centered, I have to do a lot less work on behaviors, because for me, the person who is grounded and centered in a meeting has the power. If you can take a deep breath and you can see what's behind the question, what's behind the defensiveness, what's behind the agendas, and see who the person is and get to know them, now you can steer the conversation. Now you can help them get what they want. You can influence what you need. That's the first thing that I do with all my clients, is teach them how to not take the bait of their own triggers and of other people's triggers.
And on your website, you talk about the fact that it's important that you lead yourself before you lead others. Talk to me a little bit about that, because I agree wholeheartedly.
Again, so I it's funny, the Rising Leader Handbook starts off with leading, becoming a trusted advisor to your boss. And it's leading up, leading across, being on a team of peers, leading your team, and then leading yourself as last. And everybody who read the preview of the book says, would you turn it around? You have to do lead yourself first. And I said, no, I don't want to do lead yourself first. If we lead ourselves first, then it's all about you. And I don't want it to be all about you. I want it to be all about your relationships. So we start with leading up. What is your interaction with the CEO? What is your interaction with your boss? Now, let's have that interaction teach you about you, teach you about your triggers, teach you about how you show up in certain situations. Then let's look at your relationships with your peers. How do you show up with other leaders, other people who have an agenda, other people who want resources, other people who have triggers? How do you show up there? Then leading your team. And now when we get to leading you, now we have information. Right? We do personality tests. We find out that you're a driver. We turn out that, you're a peacemaker. We figure out who you are. And now it all makes sense. So once we have all that information of how you conduct yourself in an organization with other people, now we can start talking about how do we be at choice with how we show up. With one person, we tend to shrink. I don't know, Mark, I don't understand. Why do I go into their office and I shrink and I never speak up for myself? And why do I go in this office and I tend to bowl them over? Why do I do that? And then we start to parse that away, and now we can be a choice. So leading yourself is the ability to be your best self in every situation, no matter what the situation is.
Yeah. Understanding what your triggers are that make you shrink down or rise up or bowl over.
If you can slow it down, again, because it happens at lightning speed, you don't even see it happening. But if you can slow it down in a coaching conversation later, and you can say, this happened, oh, I made it mean this. This reminded me of this. Now you have a map. And you're still going to fall into the manhole. Like, you're going to be walking and you're going to not see the manhole, and you're going to walk into it and you'll be like, oh my God, how'd that happen? Then you're going to walk in and you're going to know it. You're going to see it. I'm going to walk around that manhole, and you fall into it anyway. And then one day, miraculously, you walk around and you don't follow it. You don't take the bait. Your boss starts screaming at you, and you understand that if he scream, if my boss is screaming at me at a 5 or above, like if they're at DEFCON 8, it's no longer about me. Right? If they're mad at a 4 or 5, a 3, 4, 4, maybe even a 5, it's probably the thing. But if it's 5 or above, you're now shadow boxing with childhood trauma and fears and all kinds of stuff. And your best thing is to regulate yourself, calm yourself so that you can regulate and calm them and get to the root of what's happening. And I've taught my clients to unravel situations like that masterfully just by regulating themselves.
So a lack of trust in organizations been around a lot. I used to do employee relations surveys for our department, and it's been around for a while. COVID's even made it, I think, worse in some ways. But how should we authentically build trust and support of our peer groups and begin mastering team success? And why I say authentically, again, going back to those employee surveys, survey came back, manager, it's a lack of trust with management. So then that manager goes around chatting with you, and it's a direct result because he had that bad thing, and it's not authentic. So talk to me about that a little bit.
I think authenticity is a little overrated. Like, kudos to that manager who read the report, didn't get defensive, and decided to do a little better of a job, even if it's not authentic. I coach a lot of analytical types who really don't value the human connections.
Yeah.
So they have to be inauthentic to go have a cup of coffee with someone. Doesn't mean they don't want, like, they want to be better. It's just inauthentic because they don't care. So they're trying. But if you think of Patrick Lencioni's the hierarchy of a healthy team, it starts at the base. It's trust.
Yeah.
So you can't get your organization to be trustworthy. You can only get yourself to be trustworthy. So if you're a leader, are you keeping your word? That's basic trust. If you say you're going to do something, you do it. If you're not going to do it, you renegotiate, you communicate. So I work with a CEO whose sales team was not hitting their goals. And he's like, I really got to get them to hit their goals. I said, how many times did you say you were going to go to the gym this week? He said, well, I said I was going to do 5 days. I said, how many days did you go to the gym? He said, I didn't go to the gym at all. So you're not keeping your word to yourself. What's that got to do with my team? Your team can smell it. If you're not keeping your word to yourself, how are you going to hold them accountable when you can't even hold yourself accountable? So let's pick a goal where let's go 2 days a week. Pick a goal and make sure that you keep your word to yourself. I promise you will see your sales team just transform. And it's not because they're going to transform because he's going to the gym. It's because he's going to be different in the meetings because he now keeps his word to himself.
Yeah.
He was also late to meetings, like, because he's the CEO, he could be 5 or 10 minutes late to every meeting because everybody would wait for him. So that destroys trust.
Yeah.
End the meeting you're in and get to the meeting that you're supposed to be in. Just because you're the CEO, it's more important that you're on time.
Yeah.
So learn to keep your word. The next piece is being vulnerable, sharing a little of yourself, and then having a cup of coffee with people and asking about their lives and really being interested. I had another CEO who, again, the personality type was not a people person. I said, your job for the next 2 weeks is every day have coffee or lunch with one person and do not talk about business. And he's like, why would I do that? Like, I pay you a lot of money, Mark. That's stupid. No, do this. He comes back 2 weeks later. He's like, oh my God, I learned so much. I learned this person has this mother at home and they're taking care of this person. And I learned this and I learned that. And I'm going to help these people with, and he was just like a kid because he just realized that he wasn't alone. He was in the middle of a group of amazing people. And he created these relationships. Yeah. So that creates trust.
Yeah. That's why I coach leading with the heart, the head, and the hands. You first have to build relationships. Have to. So I want to talk about, you touched on a little bit about being overwhelmed in your story. So what are some tips that you give your clients that are either in overwhelm to the top of the chart or just starting to feel it, and they luckily have you to go to? How do you help them navigate this to be able to deal with that? I
This
don't
is
want
one
to
of my
say
favorite
eliminate.
topics. Yeah, this is one of my favorite topics. The book Only Tens is deals with that. And actually, if people go to my website, they can get a free copy of Only Tens. They can get all the free videos for Mastering
Perfect.
Overwhelm. I do a Mastering Overwhelm workshop. It's all free on my website. And basically, it starts with the two things are your inner game, what you make things mean. So the way I learn this is I have ADHD. I cannot prioritize things. A's, B's, and C's, big rocks, little rocks. Everything comes at me at the same level, right? It's all important and it all has to be done now, and I don't get anything done. So the calming that and understanding that you don't have to say yes to everything, because I'm also a people pleaser, right? Learning to say no. So doing that inner game and
Yeah.
finding your self-worth, because most people who can't say no don't have self-worth. They haven't,
Yeah.
they're not, they get their value. Like, again, I'm an Enneagram 2, which is the happy helper. I get my value on how much I help people. So I'm always
Mhm.
going to overwhelm myself if I don't learn to set boundaries. So that leads to the second piece, which is those difficult conversations. Once you figure out that you don't have to be all things to all people all the time,
Right.
right? You can now set boundaries. You can
Mhm.
now ask for help. God forbid, oh my God, ask for help. You can now renegotiate deadlines when you're running behind. And then I get people, if you do the Only Tens thing, I get people to cross things off their list. Those things that are on their list every day for the past month and are just going to be on their list for every day for the next month. Like, is that really going to get done? It's just cluttering up your mind. And I get people to start telling the truth about what they're capable of, what they're willing to do,
Mhm.
what they're not willing to do. And it's transformational, because all of a sudden, what happens when you're truthful about your to-do list, when you're truthful with other people about what you're capable of, what you're willing to do, what you can do, all of a sudden you're more authentic, and
Mhm.
that creates relationship. Now, for people pleasers
Mhm.
like me, that's terrifying, because there are people who counted on you to be all things to all people. They go away when you start setting
Yeah.
boundaries and when you start doing that. Then there's the people who reluctantly, like, okay, you used to be my doormat. All right, now you can be a peer. And then there's the people in your life who are like, I've been waiting for you
Mhm.
to set a boundary. So it's those difficult conversations. Those difficult conversations are the thing that will get you out of overwhelm.
Yeah. And uh, we only have a little bit of time left, but as you were talking about that, and you did mention that your kids are everything to you, how important is it that your kids learn these things that you teach your clients so that they have a little bit more of a stronger GPS in life to help them navigate, not to eliminate? We know that we learn from uh, our mistakes. You are that example to them. You, even in your failures, you're
Mm.
that example to them. But talk to me about that as you build that legacy with your kids.
Again, it's who my kids are versus what they do. My youngest son is a Hasidic rabbi. And I was joking with him because he's ultra orthodox. He can't eat at my house, and I was joking with him. I said, "Dude, where did I go wrong?" He goes, "Dad, it's where you went right. I'm just like you. I'm following your footsteps. This is just my path. I help people the way you do, just this way." So talk about a moment to cry, and he gives my book out to all the other kids in the yeshiva. It's really kind of beautiful. And my older son is just, he was who he was when he came out the womb. And he has said to me before, Dad, I know you're a coach. I'm not ambitious. And he's a genius. And I'm like, dude, but like, holy mackerel. He's like, I work to live. I don't live to work. I'm like, okay, you're way more healthy than I ever was. Can we just add, and we finally negotiated because he wants to get married. And most of my kids are very traditional. I said, you want to get married, you want to have a traditional family, you're going to have to like make just a little more money. Can we put 10% ambition on top of your laid backness? Just 10%. So we negotiated that. So we're working on those things. So he's able to go out of his comfort zone and just add a little bit more to again, as I said, you want to be kind to 35 and 40-year-old Zach. You want to be kind to that dad you're going to be by having that money in the bank, by having that career trajectory, so you can take care of your family. This is America. Like, if you don't take care of your family, like, nobody's taking care of you here.
All right. Well, I'm putting on my Vicki's hat for a second here. Part of that marriage is two people, and I always felt that it was my responsibility to be part of that solution. So, because I came from a family where my mom was not allowed to work, and we struggled a lot. And I always said, as long as I can contribute and use my skills and gifts, I will. This is a partnership. So
agreed.
Good that you give that 10%, but that
and he's dating some high-powered women. He's I think he's going to date someone who works and has a career and all that stuff, but who also have these values for the between them. But again, as a man, I'm trying to teach my sons to be men, right? I want them.
That's right.
Not toxic, but I want them to be men who take care of the things that they need to take care of in the world.
But always don't stress over it, because you are a team.
100%. 100%.
It's time now for me to share my screen with the contact information. Mark has given you so many great tips. I hope that you, if you're just listening, we're writing notes and being able to refer back to them. But if you weren't, definitely you can find this information on my YouTube channel, Vicki Noethling. Please subscribe, as well as my findyourleadershipconfidence.com. So his website is markjsilverman.com. And on LinkedIn, you can search Mark22102. That's Mark22102, but you can search his name and you will find him. On Twitter, he is MJ Silverman. That's MJAY Silverman. And Instagram, he's Mark J. Silverman. And that's just the letter J. So Mark, letter J, Silverman. I'm going to turn it over to that Mark J. Silverman to talk to you about the golden nuggets that you're going to get when you go to his website, and things that he does out on social media that might be helpful to you. So Mark, it's all yours.
Great. So it's known as Media Mark. I've been told that there's a Media Mark because my face is everywhere on social media, a video every single day. It's kind of crazy. I've done 600 episodes of a podcast. When you go to the website, the thing that I wanted my website to be was a place to get resources. So like I said, you can get only tens for free on my website, but you can get all the videos that go with it for mastering overwhelm, and all my leadership videos are all there for free. So that's the most best you can get. There's also book suggestions. I like to mix it to spirituality, positive psychology, and leadership of the books that have meant the most to me. And if you need recommendations, if you need guidance, just send me a note and I'll help you find the book that will change your life.
Oh, so good. Mark, I knew it would be a great conversation, and it certainly was. You and I could probably talk for days on different things. I'd love to have you come back where we just talk about crucial conversations and overwhelm. I think that would be a great topic for our next time together. But thank you just for being a wonderful guest today.
Thank you for inviting me and being so thorough.
Awesome. And as always, I remind everyone that life is a journey, and it's up to you to enjoy the ride. This is Vicki Noethling signing off.
Thank you for tuning into the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling, where we share impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Remember to visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast.